In this video, we're going to be going over solve by trinomial factor when a is greater than 1. Let's look at the first example. We're going to start by writing down what we were given. So I was given 5x squared minus 7x minus 6 equals negative 10x minus 4. And again, just like the last lesson, you always want to start by getting it into standard form. So we want to make sure that it's in descending order and that it's set equal to 0. So I need to get this 10 to the other side. It's negative, so I'm going to add 10x. Add it right underneath the other x. And I need to get this negative 4 to the other side as well. So I'm going to add 4. Since it's a negative, do the opposite. We're going to bring down that 5x squared that we haven't touched yet. Negative 7x plus 10x gives me positive 3x. Negative 6 plus 4 gives me negative 2. And we're left with equals 0 from our 0 pairs. Now when you look at the trinomial that you were given on the left, a is 5, that number right out in front of x squared. Whenever a is bigger than 1, you're automatically going to start by creating your generic rectangle to factor it. Generic rectangle and diamond. So to start with your generic rectangle, the first and last piece always go diagonal from each other. So 5x squared is going to come in this top left box. Negative 2 is going to go in the bottom right box. You're going to take the middle term and you're going to put it at the bottom of your diamond. You're going to multiply your diagonals and put it at the top of your diamond. So 5x squared times negative 2 gives me negative 10x squared. Now you're going to list out everything that multiplies to negative 10x squared. So I'm just going to worry about the coefficient negative 10, not about the x squared to start. Negative 1 and 10, 1 and negative 10, negative 2 and 5, 2 and negative 5. And for these problems, we're going to place an x on each one so that when we multiply them, x times x gives me that x squared. Now you're going to look through all of these examples and you're going to find out which one adds up to that bottom number of 3x. This adds up to 9x. This adds up to negative 9x. And then we found our option, negative 2 and 5 adds up to 3x. So negative 2x, 5x, and these two pieces go inside diagonal from each other in the generic rectangle as well. It doesn't matter where you place them. The negative 2x could have been in the bottom left box if you'd like. You're going to go through your generic rectangle now and find the greatest common factor of each row and column. So looking at this top column, I have 5 and negative 2. Those two numbers have nothing in common, but they both have the variable x that they can be divided by. Second row, I have 5x and negative 2. They have no number that they can be divided by, and they both cannot be divided by an x, so we're just going to have a 1. This column, 5 and 5 are both divisible by 5. They both have an x. And then the last column, negative 2 and negative 2, they're both negative. They're both divisible by 2. They both don't have an x, so we will leave the x off. So now we're able to take this trinomial that we were given, and we're able to factor it as x plus 1 coming from this side of my generic rectangle, and then 5x minus 2 in the other set of parentheses, and it's still set equal to 0. And your final step to finish is to solve for x, and you're going to use the zero product rule to set the first parenthesis equal to 0 and set the second parenthesis equal to 0. Solve for x in both cases. This first one's quick. We just need to subtract 1 from each side. This second one, you need to start by adding 2 to both sides. We'll get 5x equals 2. And we need one more step to get the x by itself. We need to divide both sides by 5. And we'll get x equals 2/5. The second example we're going to do, we were given 2x squared plus 3x equals 4x plus 6. We again need to get it into standard form. So I'm going to start by getting this 4x to the other side. It's positive, so I'll subtract. I need to get this 6 to the other side. It's positive, so I'll subtract again, but there's no constant on the left side to combine it with, so I'm just going to place it on the very end. I'm left with 2x squared. 3x minus 4x is a negative 1x. I need to make sure that I don't forget about this negative 6 on the very end. Cross out my 0 pairs. Again, since you have turned your trinomial into standard form, and a is greater than 1, since a is 2, you automatically know that you're going to create a generic rectangle and a diamond for it. First and the last piece of your trinomial go diagonal from each other, so you get 2x squared and negative 6. This middle number right here, negative 1x, goes at the bottom of your diamond problem. And at the top of your diamond problem is multiplying these two diagonals together so that you'll get negative 12x squared. You want to start by finishing this diamond problem. So you're going to look for all the factors of negative 12x squared. I'm going to start by just looking at the coefficient negative 12. So negative 1 and 12. 1 and negative 12, negative 2 and 6, 2 and negative 6, negative 3 and 4, 3 and negative 4. And just like the last example, these are all each going to have an x on them. And you're going to look through this list that you just created and find out which one adds up to negative 1. So this adds up to 11, negative 11, 4, negative 4, 1, and I finally found my option that adds up to negative 1. 3x, negative 4x to finish off my diamond. I can go and finish the generic rectangle with those. Doesn't matter where you put the 3x in the top or the bottom. Once we have our generic rectangle completely filled in, we're going to look for the GCF of each column and row. So this top row, 2 and 3 aren't divisible by anything, but they both have an x. This bottom row, negative 4 and negative 6, they're both negative. They're both divisible by 2. This top first column, they're both divisible by 2. They both have an x. And this last column, they're both divisible by 3. You can always go and double check that your boxes and rows are lining up, making sure that this top box is x times 2x to give you 2x squared. The top right box is x times 3 to give you 3x. This bottom box is negative 2 times 2x, and this last bottom box is negative 2 times 3, and you did make sure that you did it correctly. So now we're going to set up our parentheses, x minus 2, 2x plus 3, coming from the two sides of our generic rectangle. Set it equal to 0, and then finish off with your zero product rule of setting both the parentheses equal to 0. This first one's the quick one again, where we would just have to add 2 to both sides and we'll get x equals 2. The second one, you have to start by subtracting 3 from both sides. 2x will equal -3. Divide both sides by 2. You'll get x equals -3/2. And then the last example for these notes, we're going to write down what we started with. We're going to bring everything to the left side, so I need to add 5x and add 10. There's not a 5x piece to actually add to combine like terms, so I'm going to place it in the middle to make sure it's in the correct order, and actually add my 10 to this -14. We're really keeping in mind our standard form for this example, where we want our x squared, then our x, then our constant number. So I'm going to list this 6x squared piece first. And then I want to list the x piece that I brought over to the left side, and it's a positive 5x. And then I want just my number pieces that I'm going to combine -14 and 10 to give me -4. As soon as we see that it's in standard form, there's no GCF, our A is greater than 1. Since it's 6, you create a generic rectangle and a diamond. First piece goes in the top left, last piece goes in the bottom right. Middle term goes in the bottom of your diamond. Top of your diamond is multiplying these two diagonals to give you -24x squared. We're going to try to finish our diamond by listing out everything that multiplies to -24x squared. -1 and 24, 1 and -24, -2 and 12, 2 and -12, -3 and 8. And I'm going to stop myself right there before continuing on my list, because already keeping in mind this 5x, I see that I finally listed the piece that's going to work. -3x and 8x, multiply to -24 and add to 5. I'm going to find what my rows and columns have in common. 6 and 8 are both divisible by 2. They both have an x on them. These are both negative. 3 and 4 don't have anything that they're divisible by. One has an x, one does not, so we can only do -1. This column, 6 and -3, are both divisible by 3. They both have an x. This column, 8 and -4, are both divisible by 4. They both do not have an x, so I can't include that. Use my length and my width for the parentheses, equal to 0. And then you'll use your zero product rule to set both of the parentheses equal to 0. Start this one by adding 1 to both sides. 2x will equal 1. Divide both sides by 2. You'll get x equals 1/2. Start this side by subtracting 4 from both sides. You'll get 3x equals -4. Divide both sides by 3. You'll get x equals -4/3.